Hello, friends, and welcome to the Occasional Podcast, Season 12, Episode 9. Our interview with Vince Bruzzese of Totem Acoustics. Now, as you may or may not be aware, sometimes when we interview the more technical minds of the industry, it takes some coaxing to get all the information out of them. But with this interview with Vince, he did an eloquent job of just kind of weaving us through his story in a single answer. So I want to kind of give you this interview in a unique way, which is a single answer to a single question for the most part. And it's one that really flows. It's well thought out, interesting, and weaves a decent narrative with little to no additional prompting. It really touches on some of the interesting acoustic design philosophy he has and gives you a real sense of how and why a speaker company was born. Totem Acoustic is also out of Canada, which makes it interesting. We don't get too many Canadians on the show, so I'm happy to share that with you as well. But first, a few items of business. We are closing in at the peak of summer, and Mark and myself will be bringing you some new top 10 lists of our favorite products coming up very soon. Don't forget to check out the PT Audio record weight in copper, still available. And Mark is still coming out. The team is working hard with a lot of reviews on all the high-end gear and affordable stuff as well. So we are moving forward with tons of reviews. So check out the site, PT Audio. You can find the record weight available there if you pull the drop down About Us and click on record weight. And while we don't have any audio shows on the immediate horizon, you just keep updated with all the latest news on the website. And stay tuned here. We have tons of great interviews coming. I can't wait for the next quarter. Fourth quarter is always my favorite when it comes to new product releases and really, really fun interviews. So, and without further ado, Vince from Totem Acoustics. Let's go. Today's episode is sponsored by Nordost. Ready to take your system to the next level? Transform the way you listen with Nordost's world-class hi-fi cables and audio enhancers. Nordost's superior design philosophy and exacting craftsmanship bring out every musical detail, connecting you with the tunes you love. Hear the difference as your equipment comes to life, turning every listening session into an unforgettable audio journey. Nordost, the clear choice for the best connection. That's www.nordost.com. Today's episode of the Occasional Podcast is sponsored by DeVore Fidelity. DeVore Fidelity has been hand-building their speakers in Brooklyn, New York for 25 years. Each pair of speakers is handcrafted to bring you closer to the music in your collection. Check out their entire line of speakers and where to hear them for yourself at DeVoreFidelity.com. That's DeVoreFidelity.com. Hey everybody, thank you so much for joining us. I'm here with Vince Bruzzese from Totem Acoustic. How are you doing today?
I'm doing fine. Couldn't be better.
You are pretty well known for doing Totem Acoustic speakers, and they're kind of they fill a unique space within the market. And I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about your design philosophy and the things that you try to create with your products. But first, I kind of want to get a little bit of background on yourself. How did you first get into audio, and how did you end up where we're sitting here today?
Well, I must tell you, Montreal used to be a center for distribution of, let's say, European audio throughout North America. That was a central point. And being there and knowing some of the manufacturers that were there, like Dave Reich from Class A originally, Ed Meitner from Musiatex, things of that nature. Well, they were sort of my buddies too. Yeah. And I had a rather good ear, and I used to go out and search them out, or they used to search me out. And what we did is we listened. And they found that I had a particular affinity for spatial hearing and things that attracted me in my musical development. And I liked a clear image, something like if one can think of a Quad 57 on steroids, and without the directionality that a Quad 57, that would have been my ultimate, let's say, seeking when I was a young man. And with their help and with my help and with my mixed up, let's say, direction in sound, I tried to find speakers that fulfilled that. And in doing so, I found that my progress was a little bit disappointing.
Okay.
Some speakers that I did like, I'll never mention names because they were my mistakes if I purchased them. Some of them that sounded correct, after a month or two, did not. And it perturbed me. I had a bit of a science background. I taught math and physics, and I did other things in my career. And these things perturbed me. And asking the people around, they had their own ideas. And furthermore, I continued this fast for 3, 4, 5 years. And ultimately, I came to the conclusion that there was definitely a lack of cohesion in trying to replicate the spatial, quick, open type soundscape that I had in my mind.
Okay.
There was very little out there. So I went to work, and I wanted to produce a speaker in conjunction with one of these gentlemen. And at the time, that particular company moved out of Montreal.
Okay.
And I decided to start on my own. So in 1987, we had done some rather unique work on flat panel speakers that went on the wall. Mm-hmm. But it was too far ahead in terms of thought pattern. I thought, flat panel speakers, I heard through McGill and other intellectuals at that time that, well, the plasmas are coming out. You'll be great with that, you know?
Right.
So that was my thought pattern for an original speaker that had a panel sound, but without the panel problems. In doing that particular development, I learned how to get great off-axis performance out of a speaker, and doing so with very limited volumes, because that speaker had maybe 5-6 liters in a flat panel arrangement against the wall. So that taught me hard lessons, and it taught me the most important thing was that you needed correct drivers for very small volume applications. But then you needed a correct philosophy in trying to reestablish this into a real milieu where you can transmit it to a space and hearing. And this idea, I was trying to promote it among distributors there because it was a distributor center. And the idea was sort of stolen. One of the companies just grabbed that idea and built a flat panel speaker that was at the absolute worst in the world. Okay. And they brought it out within 6-7 months because they already had a manufacturing facility set up. And it ruined the idea of having a flat panel speaker. That one was horrible. And I'd say if I'm going to try to build a flat panel speaker, it's not going to work, for this on-wall application. So I took the math that I had developed, that we didn't follow field small parameters and base loading and things of the nature. I had my own mathematical tables that I worked upon and I believed in, and we still apply today at Totem. Mm-hmm. And these tables work incredibly well for small volume designs. And we concentrated on getting a specific driver built by Dynaudio. At that time, we had the charisma and knowledge to meet certain people in the industry, and they did wonderful things for us. So we had a 15W75 built for us, and we put it in a small package, and we went to London to show the Brits at that time. This is not a derogatory term, just to show how a Canadian North American product could sound so correct in space. Mm-hmm. And in our first presentation of this product, we were playing behind a 4-way speaker system, gigantic speaker system at London, but it was way behind the speaker. Mm-hmm. We just put the little Totem Model 1s there, and for one day we didn't say anything. People just came into the room and they thought they were hearing that 4-way speaker, and they were saying, wow, that's pretty amazing. Oh, I love the organ, I love this. And then we revealed to everybody that was the Model 1s that were playing. Mm-hmm. We had to make a statement, and the statement was, this imaging capability can come out of a small box if it's correctly designed. And at that time, everybody filled their speakers up with foam, felt, and other stuff, and they still do today. Yeah. And one of my cousins, who was an MIT graduate and a great physicist, told me that, well, Vince, you should use borosilicate dampening inside. And borosilicate was a powdery substance that they used to make the space shuttle tiles with. You put that, he says, in a latex base, paint the internals of your cabinets, and that'll dissipate energy and get rid of some of the perturbances that I had with some of those other designs. And one of my other quibble with speakers that I had purchased is I thought it was a magnificent speaker. the super tweeter went, and then when I asked for a replacement part, they said, oh, that's not made anymore. Here's a replacement, it's going to sound better. I drove all the way to Toronto to get the crossover adjusted and changed, and it was horrible after that. So I had a bit of reservation about what people actually say and perform. And I said, well, that's not what I want to be. I want to be someone, if I do come out with a speaker, that has parts for it in continuity, that does not change every 2 months, and that will be spectacular for decades. I was a careful consumer, and I wanted to be a careful producer of speakers.
Our friends at ZMF Headphones are sponsors of today's episode. ZMF is a curated collection of various sounds and styles in the form of dynamic and planar magnetic wood headphones, designed by founder Zach Merbach since 2011. ZMF has garnered an A+ recommended component in Stereophile, Headphone of the Year on Headphonics.com, and been a 2-time winner of the SBAF Golden Schlong Award. ZMF Headphones. That's the letter ZMF. Headphones.com. ZMF Headphones is the place to go to check out ZMF's collection and learn more. ZMF, traditional craft and modern acoustics. Tired of audio reviews that sound like they were written by robots? Us too. For the last 15 years, Part-Time Audiophile has been an open revolt against boring. And this year, we're doubling down. We have a brand new look and a brand new name, but the same old attitude. Find us at pt.audio for all your turntable throwdowns and amplifier face-offs. Great sound meets good times at pt.audio.
And we started off well. It was at a time when a person who had a little bit of vision and ambition could do these very small things. But I never thought of myself as exceptionally talented. I just was a very good worker and a very good listener. And I learned my trade over the years. And now, 40 years in running, Totem would never have the success that it has today if it wasn't for people that came on and helped me in that. You can't have a company start and continue and exist if you don't have somebody like Lucy or you lose my VP and really the auto generator at Totem to make things work and to carry on the business. So I was fortunate and I was given gifts and these people showing up in my life that really helped Totem build not just my dream but our dream together. And even the name was given out of love, believe it or not. We were searching for a name back in the late 80s, I must say. And one of the people that I used to teach with was going through a very difficult time. And at that time, I was working on a prototype of the Model 1. And I just gave it to him. I said, look, you like Bach, you like classical music. This will bring you to a good level. You'll feel good. You know, I knew he was passionate about music. He was frustrated. He was down in the dumps. And then 7-8 months later, I even forgot because I didn't meet him every week. He came up to me, he says, call your company Totem. I was a little taken aback. I said, well, there's some, not intellectual, but native rights there involved. And he, being of French-Canadian and native origin, mentioned to me, he says, I will check with the elders at Oka and Kanawake, which are the reservations. And he did. And he says, if you treat the name with respect, it'll bring you good fortune. And we always have. And he said, Totem is a guide. And I believe that our speakers guide you in your musical development. It's not, I can't say it's spiritual, but I changed my profession completely. And I went into this wholeheartedly knowing that it would be a difficult path. And we were warned, it's not easy. This is a market that does not have that much bandwidth in terms of monetary development and things of the nature. So, but we did it correctly, I'm proud to say. We established the models early on We went to export, not just to Canada and to US, but we went overseas, right in the land where monitors were built. And we made our name that way. And we had a wonderful following in the Benelux, in Great Britain at that time, in Italy, and other things. And we still have the same distributors 37 years after. And that's part of the journey. And I lived with those distributors. We saw their families grow up. And at one point, when Lucy came on board, close to 30 years ago, she said, Vince, you just can't exist on monitors and little floor standers. You have to think that the world is changing. And myself being caught up in my work and believing in what I was doing, I thought I was doing okay. She says, no, the market is changing. You were at the forefront maybe 45 years ago with a flat panel speaker for architectural. Go back and build some architectural product that is spectacular. And slowly and surely she convinced me. And I told her the limitations of building an on-wall product that had to be a 20th of the size of the original flat panel speaker, but has to perform at a greater level than that flat panel speaker. So if somebody doesn't have that stick to prod me and to inspire me and to guide me with the assurance that she'll be able to sell that product, well, then there's no hope to come out with a product as such. With panels coming finally into play, imagine plasma panels are coming into play. Lucy says, we're showing with Pioneer. They have this size panel. Build that speaker, please. And we worked extremely hard to come out with some on-walls that sounded almost like full-range speakers. And I told her that with larger units, we can't build them with more drivers. More drivers does not make better sound or larger sound. And that a new technology had to be developed. And with that impetus and inspiration from her and the market strength that would follow, we started Torrent 17 years ago. And with that Torrent development, we proved that a little 4-inch driver in a very reduced cabinet on-wall can image off-axis, play like a electrostatic quad, and give you that type of joy in listening to music, and it's still a product that is acceptable as a lifestyle and a normal product. Am I proud of that? Yes. But I'm also proud of the continuity that we had with our products. Our product models survived for 20 years, 25 years. Some of the models still are built today. Why? Because the designation and the thoroughness that we went in terms of establishing this three-dimensional staging effect from our speakers, very careful articulation, and what I loved in music, well, there was other people that thought that too, and the consumers that followed in that vein, well, we were very thankful. But without help from, the people around me, there's no way I could have succeeded. No, I'm sorry, I'm just an individual. I love design work, I love to push myself, but we do need almost assurances and almost these angels that come and help you along. And we've been, maybe it's that totem name, we've been given that grace of having people come to us and help us along in the journey. And now, many years later, Torrent has become primordial in our company. Why? Because we proved it with those on-walls, the Tribe 3, the Tribe 5, and any on-wall product. We transferred that technology to little towers such as the Tribe Tower, and we had even come out previous to the Tribe Tower, the Metal and the Element series. That was the first gen. That was close to 15 years ago. So that first gen proved to people that a crossoverless woofer system with incredibly low resonance. I know some of these terms to your listeners might not mean anything, but the resonance frequency is where a woofer starts losing control. So in my goal and in my dream of using drivers and trying to formulate what I like out of chassis and music, I wanted something where the resonance frequency would be so low that it's out of the way of the music. So the Torrent 7-inch driver had a resonance frequency of 17 hertz. And that's out of the way of the music. So it can operate at 20 hertz and up, and with total ease. The woofer barely moves. And that's the application that we did to the Tribe. it can, the resonance frequency of that little Tribe 4-incher was around 28 hertz. So at 30 hertz and up, it can do whatever it had to do beautifully. And over the years, of course, we perfected our trade. The Element series was a pugnacious try at showing people that a high-quality, dynamic product can be produced at a modest price, because we always believed that, I'm sorry to say, the industry sometimes exaggerates, in terms of the pricing effect. And as a consumer, because I was a consumer, searching for value and honesty, sometimes, like I tell people, I have a used Ferrari, I don't need a new one, and this principle at Totem is the truth. We strive to better the company so we can bring forward more developments. And now for ourselves, Torrent has taken a huge importance in our company, because we can come up with a little tower and people not just say, wow, it's great. There's that latitude and flexibility with Torrent that allows us to produce products that are almost dynamically striking, but also very open. My head has let's say, a willingness to go seek and get as much space around music as possible. Not exaggerated, but whatever was recorded, you want to record that. Whatever the artist had in his mind, we want to bring it out and bring it forward. And the best avenue for that is Torrent. We built 5-way systems in the past that were complicated, that had wires, that had capacitors, that were very complicated. And yes, we can make it work with certain electronics, but it was a fight. And ultimately, the end result was like everybody else's. We had a very competent speaker. Yes, it had Totem attributes of spatialness and everything, but it was almost an abomination because it was so complicated. And the phase irregularities would come into play every once in a little while. And phase irregularities in space and in music affect me on a deep level. I want the music to be clear, transmit everything that the composer and the musicians who are playing that track want to transmit. And if that is somehow scratched or muffled or molasted in some way, then I'm failing at my task. And my task is to bring articulation and clarity to that musical presentation. And yes, we've even owned an electronic company in the past. We didn't stick with it. Why? Because Lucy told me that the speaker is a huge percentage of a stereo system. Yes, you need electronics, whatever. It's the easiest thing to put together. It's the hardest thing to get correct, because it involves not only a certain knowledge of acoustics, but it also involves a transmission of what your thought patterns are into a 3D sense. And that three-dimensional sense of music being portrayed with wonderful harmonics, correct harmonics, and speed is an ultimate goal. Speed is the key. Delivery, the first transients are the key to any type of music. And if a speaker doesn't do it and just does, oh, look at the bass, or oh, look at the highs, then you've lost the battle. It's not interesting anymore. And Totem has remained true to that. So today we have, 25 in-room products, and we have maybe 30, 40 architectural products. And I'm going to say we're proud of each one. They still throw what I consider important. And we've never cheapened anything to try to save $1 or do $1. We've reinvested heavily into Totem, and we are continuing in our quest for R&D continuance in this Torrent's lifestyle. And Torrent thing gives us credibility overseas. Torrent gives us credibility among people who like music and don't necessarily need a fridge-sized speaker. And people who want a certain panache, let's say with the way that things are being brought into the home and sound. We can't make it invisible. That would be almost anti-productive, because I think our designs are simple and our lines are simple, but they can withstand the test of time. And that's a bit of the nutshell of what brought me and where I am now, yes.
Any other kind of statement you'd like to kind of say to the audience before we end?
Yes, many people, try to dissect in speakers, let's say speakers. They try to dissect and say a speaker has extremes. They always talk about the extremes, but they don't understand that music is density in the mid-range. And if the mid-range is not correct in phase with an enormous density, you've lost the message also. It's not producing X to Y in a frequency domain that will keep you there. Physiologically, anatomically, human beings need density because that is how our brain interprets it. And if it's not there with a certain amount of measure, and that's where our independent ideas on how the frequency, we're not altering the frequency, but we're just making it more important in certain areas. And I think that's where Totem shines, and brings that forth.
I like that. Vince, thank you so much for coming
Brian.
on the show.
It was a pleasure.
You. The Occasional Podcast is a production of the Part-Time Audiophile Network, which includes parttimeaudiophile.com, The Occasional Magazine, the PTA newsletter, and audiohead.com. You can stay in touch with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. The Occasional Podcast is produced and hosted by Brian Hunter, executive produced by Scott Hall at PTA Productions. The Occasional Podcast and its original associated music is monitored, mixed, and mastered on the Focal Trio 6 BE studio monitors. AI songs produced by Udio.com. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the Occasional Podcast on iTunes, Google, Spotify, or wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.